You got to go, man. You just have to go. Never wait on the right time, because the right time ain't ever coming. All that, when we get my ducks lined up in the row, no, you won't. No, you won't. Because as you have aspirations, you got to understand that the devil understands your aspirations too. The devil's job is to rob you of your destiny. So there will always be an obstacle. So if you're waiting on the right time, you'll never make the move. You have to go.
Time is short.
I am only here for a breath of time.
Someone had told me when I was 20 years old that life was very short and would pass just like that. I wouldn't have believed it. And if I tell you that, you don't believe it either. I cannot get young people to understand how brief life is, how quickly it passes. It seems like yesterday I was in school. Every one of us here has been given the same amount of time in a day. 1,440 minutes a day, 168 hours per week.
What you are and what you become depends on how you use your time. You and I have the same amount of time. The billionaire and the beggar both have 24 hours every day. The old and the young, the black, the white, the Indian, and the Asian are all given the same amount of time every day. Time cannot be stopped, but humans can control it. You cannot stop a day. You cannot stop an hour. They have no respect for you. But you can control how it will be used. Which means that even though time is unstoppable, it is controllable. And what you do with it determines who you become.
See, devil, he only has one job: to rob you of what God intended for you to be. That's his only job. So he has a lot of people that work for him full time. They're called haters. And they at work all the time. And you all experience with them too. And so what you got to do is, when you have these ideas of greatness, you got to go forward. Because it's not going to be a right time. Just go. Just go. Go, jump, take a chance. I walked in a comedy club October 8th, 1985. Had never been in a comedy club, had only heard about him. I was writing jokes for this comedian. This girl told me, "You're writing his jokes?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Why don't you do them yourself?" I said, "How? Where?" She said, "A comedy club." I said, "What's that?" She says, "Comedy club." She said, "Why are you writing them jokes for him? You ought to tell him yourself." She said, "I'm going to pick you up Tuesday and take you." We drove 45 minutes from Cleveland to Hilarity's Comedy Club. I signed up for the following week. 9 guys went up. I was just staring at them. She said, "How come you're not laughing?" Because I was just staring at them. Because every joke they told, I knew what they were going to say. And deeper than that, I knew what they should have said. And then when the 10th person came up, they called his name and he wasn't there. He got scared and left. So they said, "We're going to go to next week's list. Is Steve Harvey still here?" And I looked at her and I said, "Man, this dude in here got the same name I got." She said, "You know what? You a stupid." And he said, "Steve Harvey, you here? Come on up." I'd never been on stage in my life as a stand-up. I ran up on stage. Long story short, they had a clap-off. I won $50, amateur night. For 45 minutes, I cried all the way home. That girl said, "Why are you crying? It ain't but $50. I said, "No, you don't understand. I was born tonight." I said, "This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life." She said, "You just won $50. You got to go back." I said, "I'm going to go back. But this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life." October 9th, the next morning, I went to my job and quit my job with $50. $50. I just quit. Ex-wife left me. Mother-in-law, boy, I cost some here. Made $3,000 first year in business, $5,200 the second year, $7,300 the third year. became homeless, lost everything I ever owned, lived in a car for 3 years. I kept telling them jokes. My father was the only one who believed in me. My mother, my brothers, sisters, all my friends, man, get out of that, man. You ain't making no money. You can't tell no jokes. I just kept on. And I'd have made a lot of money, man. But I took a chance when it didn't line up. But you can't wait till it line up. You gotta jump. If you ever planning on soaring, you're gonna have to jump. Now, I don't suggest you jumping like I did. That ain't for the faint of heart. But if you don't do it now, when you gonna do it? So I jumped. Here I am.
What is your life? It's even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away. The brevity of time, that brings us to the urgency of time. The Bible says, redeem the time, because the days are evil. And the days in which we're living are very evil.
Time is life. Life is lived out in time. Life is qualified by time. Life is also the passing of time. Time is the limited period during which an action or a process exists or takes place. In other words, time is the measure of space. Time itself has its own power. The Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and you might want to read that with me. Verse 10, it says, I have seen the burden God has placed on all men. He has made everything beautiful in what? In its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, that they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end.
The fact that time is short calls for something now. Now is the accepted time. Doesn't apply just to the unconverted we talk to. It applies to us as believers, to us as young clergy. Now is the accepted time. The things we ought to do, the classes we ought to take, the books we ought to read, do it now. The family that needs you, spend more time now. Write that letter home now that you've been meaning to write. Money you ought to give now. Time for study, do it now. People you ought to witness to, do it now. Every time the clock ticks, it seems to say now. Today, if you will hear His voice.
It's redeemed time. It means you had some time that you messed up. You lost it. You threw it away. He says, now spend the next year making up for what you lost. That might mean you may need to stay up a little later, cut off some friendships, shut down some clubs you were part of, change relationships with some of these organizations that ain't taking you nowhere, take an evening class. To redeem means that you can't have a normal life anymore because you lost some time you got to make up for.
Where the pressure is the greatest, that is the deepest walk with God. We have pressures, you have pressures, a different kind of pressure here. But we need men and women who walk with God. And if you do that, you too can finish the work that God gave you to do.